Oh, hey, and we're back. Welcome back to yet another episode of Singular, where we, of course, discuss record of the year, taking you back to 1996, where talk about I thought it was going to last. Princess Diana and Prince Charles are officially divorced. Who could have seen that coming?
Who knew?
Who knew? Joining you as usual, looking very springy on this cold March day, jumping back and forth.
I'm Carrie Strug, and I'm sticking the landing. And if you can't see it, I'm landing on one foot.
5.0.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Eric Nelson.
Bringing home the gold. Thank you.
Looking dapper in that very spiffy office. Dr. Vincent Stevens, keeping us on track with our facts and figures. And
a lot of money to look this cheap.
Thank you, Miss Parton.
You're welcome.
And good listeners, boy, do we have a treat for you. Joining us, our special guest, please welcome Carolyn Snell. Most of you know Carolyn is a 25-year veteran of what, being born, Carolyn?
Exactly.
No, of the music industry and working in management, touring, and live events. Yes. Carolyn has overseen and coordinated worldwide tours for artists including Reba McEntire, Janet Jackson, Miss Jackson if you're nasty, John Mayer, and Brandy Carlisle, and the Indigo Girls. Additionally, Carolyn is an advocate and former member of the board of directors for Thistle Farms in Nashville, which provides housing, employment, and healing for women who are survivors of trafficking, prostitution, and addiction. She also happens to be a published photographer and obviously bringing a lot of street cred to us today. Welcome, Carolyn.
Woo! I can only say that this must be what it feels like to get nominated.
Yes.
Being asked to be on this show is an honor. I'd like to thank God and everyone who got me here. It's great. I've had so much fun researching this music, and thank you guys for having me. This is awesome.
Thank you.
What a pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Dr. Steve. Oh, and I'm Susan Lombardi Verticelli.
Are you?
Am
I?
I?
Hope so.
Am
You're not gonna like rip.
Ooh.
Oh.
He's going in right away.
Dr. Stevens.
Dr. Lombardi Verticelli. All right.
Sir.
So our top 10 songs of 1996, starting from the bottom. At number 10, Twisted by Keith Sweat. You're Making Me High, Toni Braxton. I Love You Always Forever, Donna Lewis. The Crossroads, Bone Thugs and Harmony. Give Me One Reason, Tracy Chapman. Always Be My Baby, Mariah. Nobody Knows, Tony Rich Project. Because You Love Me, Celine Dion. One Sweet Day, Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men. And the number one song of 1996, Macarena, Bayside Boys remix by Los Del Rio. And there you have it.
You know, surprisingly, that song did not get nominated, Vincent Stevens. The Macarena, I don't know if it even got into any of the categories this year.
That might actually be a mercy for all of us.
I think so.
I'm sure it's on like a Guinness Book of World Records, like most people to dance the Macarena.
Totally. Or most snubbed at the Grammys. Anyway, but if at home you want to do the Macarena, go ahead and do it. But who were the 5 nominees this year? Well, kicking it off was Tracy Chapman with Give Me One Reason. Then Eric Clapton returned to the top 5 with Change the World. Celine Dion got here with Because You Love Me. Alanis Morissette, who had like a huge year at the Grammys the year before, taking home Album of the Year, comes back into one of the major categories with, ironic. Who would have thought with that? I know it figures. And last but not least is a retro jam to make us think about roller skating when we were kids, 1979 by the Smashing Pumpkins. So to kick it off, Vincent Stevens, hey DJ, will you spin that wheel and give us a little Tracy Chapman and Give Me One Reason?
I am going to do what I can to make that happen, Eric.
You always do what you can and always deliver.
All right, here we go.
Give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around. Give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around. Said I don't wanna leave you lonely. You gotta make me change my mind. Baby, I got your number.
Susan, will this be the year you finally give me your number? Like, I would love to call you sometime, but you never give it to me. And then when I try, or I think I've cracked the code, it's been blocked. So maybe, could it be?
Baby, you know you got mine.
I'll give you one reason offline after the show is over. What did you think of this song to kick us off? Yeah, right.
I just I don't know why I need Tracy Chapman so much in my life, and I forget how much I need her in my life. And then I hear her music again because of these podcasts, and I'm like, oh my God, why is she so good? Why are all these songs like evoking so much emotion in me? Those guitar strings, that percussion when that comes in, the storytelling. This must have been in 1996. I was in a store. It was full of women, and the opening chords to this song come on, and everyone's just like milling about. And then the lyrics come on, and every woman in that store started to sing this song. We could have been a video. We could have been backup. I mean, we like somehow came together in a V formation. We lifted one person up. I don't know, like, do we already talk about like folk anthemic? Because this is it. I love this song. There, done.
Done, easy. Why, on a classic, why do you need to spend more time? Right.
So good.
Indeed. Vincent Stevens, Tracy Chapman has been here before on the podcast with us. So she's back for a second time.
Exactly. She made a great showing before, and I think she's going to make a great showing today. So I think it's amazing that 1996 is like the year of the adult contemporary. Like that's really when that kind of format in some ways is having a second peak. And just for frame of reference, Give Me One Reason peaked at number 3 on the adult contemporary chart, but it was on that chart for 40 weeks. That's a very long time. And some of our other nominees were on for twice as long. So this is a year where music aimed at both kind of an adult and an adult alternative audience is really like big songs. So what I remember from 1996 specifically is actually being in line at the brunch stand at Emerson College. And there was this guy who used to make omelets. And I remember he gave me the single of this song. I'm not joking. He's like, hey, you seem like you like this. And I was like, thank you.
Would he give other people singles of all sorts?
And then what happened?
Now we're getting into an ugly area. The point is,
ooh,
it's kind of funny that in 1996, in the year of No Doubt, Alanis Morissette, et cetera, that a 12-bar blues, this sultry 12-bar blues song was a hit. That's kind of unexpected. In terms of the song itself, it's got this very sultry build. It's very declarative. It's very straightforward. I mean, I think it shows you the durability of that form. And it's funny, Susan, in the 2000s, I was at an African-American LGBTQ picnic in Washington, D.C., and I remember some of my lesbian sisters like broke out into song. Like this song came on, and there's a woman who was really, really gifted singer, and she sang the ish out of this. And I was like, yes. And it just was that reminder that like the 90s wasn't just disposable. I would say if I were going to be critical of the song, the one critique I would make of the song is really a formal critique. And basically, if you're someone who listens to the blues, like the 12-bar form, that is the basis of the blues. So because Tracy Chapman is a pop star, it was very unusual. If you listen to blues regularly, this kind of song, it's a very good 12-bar blues, but she's not doing anything with the form that hasn't already been done before. So that would be the one thing that I would say. It's a very traditional, it's a pretty conservative song in terms of what it actually is. But I think in the pop landscape, the fact that it sort of became a hit, I think tells you something about its appeal. And I think, it's funny, after our 1988 record of the year, podcast, I remember I ended up listening to like a Tracy Chapman compilation on Spotify or whatever, and we're not endorsed by Spotify. And I think that people think about Tracy Chapman and they think of Fast Car, maybe Baby I Can Hold You, the song, but she has a really, really rich repertoire. Like if you have not listened to her greatest hits or compilation or whatever it's called, you should, because she's got kind of hits to spare. So yeah.
Can I just say, I didn't know that this style of music was called that. And I used to think that was a night out for me, 12 bar blues. I've also
Well, and that was like a low, like there was also a 14, 16, and 24 bar blues for Susan as well.
I've been sitting on that joke for so long that I've been like bubbling under.
I love it.
Sorry.
Well, I think this is time where we get to do something very exciting, which is to bring our guest in to hear from her for the first time. So Carolyn, A, it's so great to have you. And B, what do you think of this song?
Man, thank you for that. I just want to say before we lose the Susan note, we're going to talk later about a separate podcast called the 12 Bar Blues, because man, that's going to be big. That's a whole nother, that's a spinoff. Not to take you guys out of it. And also, I did a lot of research on these songs. I've talked to people that I work with in the music industry. Like I really went deep. I also took some notes, which I'll be reading from a side screen. So when you see me doing this, I'm really engaged. I'm here.
No judgments.
I'm also reading. I'm old, so this is what happens. I forget stuff. So this album, New Beginning, it's probably one of my highest top 20 of all albums ever. Like I love this album. It came out in, obviously, as we know, the time for the 96 Grammys. And it was the biggest album to come out after her self-titled debut came out in '88. So already you're familiar with Tracy Chapman and that sort of signature alt-rock, social justice kind of anthem singer. But this came out, like you said, Vincent, sultry, bluesy. I love it. Also, this year it was nominated for Song of the Year for all genres. Also nominated for Best Pop Album and Best Female Rock Performance. So I love the fact that it's like it doesn't really fall into this is what it is. It's like you can't put a label on Tracy Chapman. She's pop, she's rock, she's all the things. Production wise, and this is where I kind of get nerdy because I love this part of it. Don Gurman was a producer. He actually worked as a live sound engineer in the 70s with James Brown, Chicago, Blood, Sweat and Tears. So when he moved into the studio space, he started working with John Mellencamp, with REM, with Blues Travelers. So I feel like that sound that he brings to it, it's like you're at a live show. It's earthy, it's working class. Like I hear this song, it's gonna exactly sound the same way live as it does on the album. So I love that feel that he brings to it. And then I know it's not, the record of the year is not specifically about songwriters, but you have to nod to them too. And Tracy wrote it. But I love that she's like, here's the thing. I love you, but there's an ultimatum. I'm gonna make it really easy though. It's just one thing. You don't have to give me an explanation. You don't have to beg. It's literally one thing, but I'm also too old to chase you around to like snap it up. This is a woman after my heart. Like, thank you. Just give me a thing and then like make it simple. So I love that about it. To me, it's an empowering female song. It cuts straight to the chase. She's not being bitchy about it. She's just like telling, this is what I want. So she's speaking her truth. And I love that about it.
Excellent. And I love that, Carolyn, bringing up that the sound of how it probably, in the recording versus how it will sound live, like oftentimes that doesn't translate the same way, but this song has so much energy and you do feel like you probably would get that same feeling. And I wonder if that's one of the reasons why it stood out, or to Vincent, your point, like this was how did we end up in the mid 90s, like completely binging on adult contemporary music? When everyone thinks back at the 90s, they think grunge, 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 but really, like, look at Unbreak My Heart, Because You Love Me, like One Sweet Day, Nobody Knows, like it is the most adult contemporary year. That, or I listened to the top 100 of this year, and people were either in a really romantic adult contemporary mood, or they were super horny. There are so many, like, Doing It by LL Cool J, like kind of songs are so, there's this interesting, like, we're gonna dress up and be adult contemporary, or we're just gonna get down to knocking boots. Like that is what's going on in the mid 90s. And then you get this song, which straddles sort of both of that because of, it's an adult take on desire, but it's not you know, a belty song, and it's not this like down and dirty in the sheet. It's just this real raw emotion that's really so lovely about it. I love this song. It's so great to get to hear. And I love that around, like that little moment that keeps coming up is so great. And I'll just say one more thing about it. That last line, I ain't got nothing more to say. Like, you know, what a punctuation, and just ends it in this sort of super empowering note. And like, I've given you the playbook. You know what to do with this. And if you're not going to do it, that playbook's going to get closed, and I'm going to move on to somebody else. And bye-bye. Bye-bye. So love it. So glad that this song is in this mix. So actually, I'll say one other thing about this, because as I was researching this, I found, because this sort of is our transition into the next song. There's, you know, the very special Christmas albums. If folks don't know this, for years, every few years you get this album of Christmas songs done by popular artists. So it's a mix of, you know, who's who of the day. So there's a live album of Very Special Christmas, and both Tracy Chapman and Eric Clapton are on that album. So they both do Christmas songs. And then because it's super Christmassy, they do a version of this song. So if you were to buy that live album and put it on for the holidays, all of a sudden, Give Me One Reason comes on, as you're probably wondering, you know, I want to be around, you know, the Spin It and sing some carols, and yet Give Me One Reason comes on. So anyway, but I love that they did that.
Reason, the festive edition.
That's right. Indeed. Okay. A little jingle bell goes a long way. So that cues up our next nominee, which is Eric Clapton. And with a little baby face on the side, perhaps an app of baby face, is Change the World.
Gonna get synced to the right moment, and then we should be ready. All right.
And I can change the world. I will be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good. Baby, if I could change the world.
Susan, when I met you, my world just changed. Like, you strum that guitar and then the stars came out of the sky. It was really great. So I just want to continually thank you for that. So
you're welcome.
Okay. That's all I got to say. Ain't no more to say about that. Yeah, indeed. So what do you think of this song?
Speaking of straddling, did you say straddle, or did I just bring that up? Did I just say that?
I'm always saying straddling. Every second sentence of mine contains the words of straddle. Yeah.
I feel like you said it, but so I feel like I'm straddling the world where I don't want to offend some of the music greats, because I'm afraid that I'm going to bump into them. They're going to hold me accountable.
Be fearless, my sister.
Thank you. Thank you. So if Eric Clapton were in my home, maybe around the holidays, and
singing his chestnut of Give Me One Reason.
And maybe he offered to take down one of the guitars that hang around my house and play them, I would not stop him from playing the song. And I might even like choke up a little bit. But I also have to say, I cannot grab onto any part of the song except for the chorus. As I was listening to it, I was like, I can hear him, but none of it is sticking. And I guess it's pretty, but I don't know. I guess like the music is good. Like there's obviously talent there. He's singing on, I don't know. Is it lacking emotion? Is it lacking truth? Like, I don't know. But I'm sorry, Mr. Clapton, you're welcome at any time.
End scene. Vincent, is Mr. Clapton welcome at your house to sing this song or not sing this song?
Eric Clapton went from this like 60s guitar god to like adult contemporary deluxe. So it started with Wonderful Tonight, and it just went downhill. And this, I think, is kind of the apex of that. It's like, it's a babyface production. It's smooth, it's silken, but it's kind of the epitome of what they used to call middle of the road music. It's music that's really blandly offensive. It's got a little bit of pop elements. It's got some R&B elements, and it's got some rock elements, but it doesn't congeal into anything other than what we might call kind of this sort of, it's like a song written for adult contemporary radio. So this song, I remember in 1996, the video was on replay on VH1 nonstop. It was always on. But the more you listen to it, the less you get from it. It's so boring. It's so repetitive. The lyrics are so lazy. If I could change the world, I would be the sunlight in the universe. You would think my love was really something good. Okay. So this was written for the movie Michael, which was some cheesy movie with John Travolta playing an angel. Exactly. So people are like, what movie? It's probably the only thing from that movie that actually survived. I just think it's the epitome of a very kind of boring, like adult contemporary song. You can put it on, it's there, but there's no involvement. Yeah, I mean, and I think again, right, it just signifies sort of the shift in adult contemporary radio. So this song was #1 on that format for 13 weeks, and it was on the chart for 81 weeks. So it's the kind of song that has this template, this formula. And several years later, he had a hit with the song called My Father's Eyes. It's like the same exact blueprint. So I just think it's kind of, this solidifies Eric Clapton's sort of descent from kind of this very, I think, like engaging, young, exciting artist to just kind of this kind of grandpa, like adult contemporary lush. So yeah, I feel you, Susan. I don't get it.
Well, speaking of exciting and young, I think that brings us back to Carolyn to get her thoughts on, did her world get changed or not from this
Eric,
song?
you can intro me anytime like that. Also, Susan, don't worry. If anyone's mad, Eric Clapton is gonna be mad at Vincent. God, that was just like harsh.
Way harsh, Gretch.
My proof.
I know, it's
You
true.
receive it however you receive it.
It's true. I'm gonna once again tap into the song, knowing this is not Song of the Year, but this is so specific. And actually, I did not know this story, so I'm very excited to know now. This is actually a country song. It was written initially in 1991 by Tommy Sims and Gordon Kennedy, who were both in the Christian rock band Whiteheart, and Wayne Kirkpatrick, who is another player, a writer. He actually wrote Every Heartbeat with Amy Grant and Place in This World by Michael W. Smith, just fun facts for you. The three together wrote it in 1991. And then Tony Brown, who's a producer in Nashville, big deal, especially in the 90s. He had a lot of hits with Reba, Vince Gill, George Strait. He put it on hold for an album that Winona was going to cut. This is 1993. She didn't cut that until 1996 and put that album out 5 months before Eric Clapton released his version. But the writers were told when the song gets put on hold, which basically means this artist is going to record it, nobody else can record it, but they can have it on hold for years, obviously. They said this is going to be a single for Winona. So the album comes out in 1996, the writers are ready, and it's not a single. So if you bought the Winona album, great, maybe you've heard it, if not, whatever. So imagine being the songwriter being like, this song has been on hold for 5 years. It's out, it doesn't do anything. And then, little known to them, there's a woman named Kathy Nelson, who's a music supervisor for film. She's friends with Tony Brown. She goes and visits Tony in Nashville. He gives her a demo of the song, and she's like, I like this. I'm gonna take it to LA with me. She gives it to Robbie Robertson, who's an exec producer of the soundtrack for the film. I think it's Phenomenon, Vincent. I'm gonna say I don't.
Oh, you know what? You're right. Okay. You're right.
Wikipedia didn't let me down.
You're right. You're right.
So he's like, oh my God, this is a great song. I'm gonna put this in the film, but I'm gonna have Eric Clapton cut it. So imagine the songwriters now. Sorry, I mean, good for you. You got it on a Winona soundtrack or an album for her, but also Eric Clapton is gonna release it, and it's gonna be in a film, and it's gonna be produced by Babyface. So their worlds have changed, obviously. If you listen to the Winona version, she's got a real bluesy voice. So she does it justice in that sense, but it sounds like a 90s country song. Honestly, Tony Brown, you're great, but like that's what it sounds like. The magic that happens to this song is that Babyface comes in, obviously. And this is a quote from BMI, which is his publishing company, Babyface's publishing company. He says, he has a unique production style that features spare percussion parts, uncluttered keyboards, crisp guitar hooks, and lush background vocals. So like that's Babyface. That's explaining his sound for every song he does. I think it gave it what it needed to be if you compare it, especially to the first version that Winona did it. And if you think about that Grammy award show, Eric Clapton and Babyface were nominated and won for so many other things. So it just shows like they're a power couple. Like when they do a song together, it's going to be a bigger thing than it could have been if one of them did it on their own. however, and this is when I'm deciding, I'm getting on the boat, whichever way you are, is I don't think anyone is mad about this song. No one turns this on and is like, I hate this song. I just don't think anyone loves it. I don't crave listening to this. This is not something that pops out. And to get a little snarky, it's like, this is a few years after Tears in Heaven came out. It's a really sad time for Eric Clapton. It's almost like you don't want to make him feel worse by not appreciating this song, because it's a good message. But I gotta be honest, I'm just not, this didn't do it for me, especially as record of the year.
Indeed. I agree. It's interesting. We've talked a lot about on this podcast about the safe choice. Like these five in my mind, these five nominees are all super safe choices, and this song is the safest of all the choices. And it's like it also gives the Grammys sort of an out, I guess, because like Babyface has this huge year. He does the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack. He produces all these songs, and they're able to give him a Grammy through the Eric Clapton thing. It's like super safe. They don't have to feel like they're taking risks, but they can feel edgy by doing that. And it, I don't know, it feels like it's more of a check the box than it is like the true winner of what that song of the year should have been. I just, to all of your points, it's a fine song. Who would turn it off? You just sort of listen to it, but it doesn't really hold or make that much of an impression. And Carolyn, I hear your point about the Babyface production, and I'll sort of not push back, but like, I feel by this point in the 90s, if we were all there, we would see in Babyface's studio, like he gets a call, it's like, hey, can you work on this song? And he's got like a Blue Apron style box, and he puts in like electronic finger snaps, and that goes in a little like plastic container. And then he puts in another one that's like, background, like soulful vocal. And he's got these like 4 things, and then he ships them off. Like the elements in this song were so, by this year, had those Babyface sprinkles. He does a lot, but these are sort of the greatest hits of them, have been used so many times, like Take a Bow and Breathe Again. Like we've heard these things so many times that I wish he would have taken it. I can't stop thinking about. I wish he would have given it a little bit fresher of a sheen, because it's such a powerhouse combination, than just sort of recycling some of the greatest hits of Babyface production elements into this that felt dated by that point in my mind. So I don't know. It's fine. The song is super safe. It has no edges to it. It just sort of flows through. And speaking of edges, the most edgy song in this mix is Celine Dion, Because You Love Me. So Vincent, do you mind turning down the lights, maybe getting some red wine open for us while we get a little rom-com love song into
Things
our
are
lives?
about to get very inspirational.
Yes.
So prepare yourselves, okay? Here we go.
You were my strength when I was weak. You were my voice when I couldn't speak. You were my eyes when I couldn't see. You saw the best there was in me, lifted me up when I couldn't reach. You gave me faith 'cause you believe I'm everything I am because you loved me. Ooh.
Man, I'm mad you didn't go up to that when she goes up on the modulation. Where was
Totally.
that? Come on.
Celine Dion lives for a bridge, but I'm not giving it to her this time.
Give her one reason, Vincent. Just give her one reason to do it. Susan, I'm everything I am because you loved me.
In listening to those lyrics, I was like, wow, she's giving a lot of power to one person. Right? Everything, really? There's no denying Miss Dion's voice in this song. Vincent and I, dear listener, for those that don't know, live very close to one another. And so we were able to discuss the song in person. And I do echo his comments, which will come later, that she really sings the ish out of this song. There's no denying her voice. Although I have to say, I think 20-year-old Susan, and not that I was 20 in 1996, like barely born. But I think 20-year-old Susan would like the song, but I think now 30-year-old Susan is like, I can't get
Is that
into
the
this.
new math?
You loved this song, Susan, when it came out. I remember.
You had the single.
I remember
You had the
you.
single.
I remember you talking about this song constantly. You loved this song.
Mhm.
And you know what I also remember? What is it? Up Close and Personal that this came from?
This is
Yep.
a weird movie. Yeah.
The way that this movie, and maybe I need to watch this movie again.
No one needs to watch this movie.
Okay.
again.
So the way that I remembered this movie is like, we're like, everything's great. And then Michelle Pfeiffer is reporting live and they zoom in on her dead boyfriend's boots. And then the movie ends.
Wait, he dies?
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's
sorry,
so- it's-
listener. Spoiler alert. You
There's a
guys-
great book about the making of this movie.
And I know it's based on a
Really?
true
Mhm.
story, and maybe I need to do. But
Jessica Savage.
yeah, it's all wrapped up in that for me, and I had a hard time then placing that dramatic moment with this song. So I think this is a good pop love song, but and Celine Dion has a beautiful voice and great.
Whew.
Speaking of beautiful voices, Vincent Stevens.
La 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 la. Okay, so this is the thing. So this song to me is actually the inverse of Change the World. So Change the World is this kind of super boring, super bland adult contemporary song. This is also an adult contemporary song, but I don't actually think the lyrics are good. In fact, I think they're the height of like codependency. And I think it's sung by a woman to a man, like actually deeply sexist. But the thing I respect about this song is that it fully embraces what it is. A Diane Warren song sung by Celine Dion, produced by David Foster. It is like literally the ur text of mid-90s adult contemporary music. It's big and it's so calculating, it's almost disarming. It knows exactly what it's doing at every interval. The build, it just completely, I respect the fact that it knows exactly what it is. It's a big bowl of schmaltz served up to you in grand style. Celine Dion, like, we knew that she had a big voice, but the dam just burst and she just lets it out. And remember, this is a year before the Titanic song. So this is 2 years after The Power of Love, which was her first #1 hit. So this song was #1 for I think 6 weeks. It is like, it's Celine Dion deluxe. If you want, this is like her coming out party. She's like, I'm putting all my cards on the table and letting you know that I am the queen of this music. And I want to point out, this song was #1 on the adult contemporary chart for 19 weeks, which had never happened before. And it was on the chart for a year. So this was sort of a ubiquitous kickoff for her album, Falling Into You, which I actually really do like. Anyway, so what I would say then is, this song owns its adult contemporariness. And the thing is, it was ostensibly written for Up Close and Personal. This song could be played at, Tom and Joe's 25th wedding anniversary. It could probably be played at a bar mitzvah. It could be played, when your pregnancy test is negative. It could be played, at a wedding. It's a song for all seasons. So it's written with this intentional genericism. I've heard it reappropriated by religious folks. So it ends up being a song about God. So that's what I'm saying. Like, Diane Warren is a total LA hack, but part of her gift, I guess, is that she's so commercial. She knows how to pitch, right, to a bunch of audiences. So a song like this, it's so non-specific that it could be for anything. So again, it's a total calculation. It's a total formula, but they fully embrace it. And you kind of almost have to respect it. I don't think it's the record of the year by any stretch, but I think it kind of is what it is. And I'm like, all right, it's embracing what it is and owning it, unlike Change the World, period.
Boom. Shut to the zam. Vince, I will just say one quick thing before we transition to Carolyn. I read somewhere that Diane Warren wrote this song as a tribute to her father. He had passed away recently when she was writing the song. So a lot of those uplifting things, or the things she's saying, like she's referencing to this person who's done this for him or her, has that fatherly perspective, which I think sort of speaks to your point about how this can travel or land in so many different ways because it's a tribute in in all those different facets. So speaking of tributes, let's tribute and say thanks again to Carolyn for joining us. So thank you so much. So give us your dirt, your take, your insight on this song.
I think Vincent and I did our research together at the Emerson College Library because it's almost verbatim of what I was going to say. You know, the Diane Warren, David Foster, another power couple, right? Diane Warren has only 1 Grammy, which is interesting. For this song, I believe that's it. And then 15 Grammy nominations, 11 Oscar nominations for Best Song in a Film. David Foster has won 16 Grammys, been nominated for 45 Grammys, and nominated for 3 Oscars. So he is like, they know what to write. They know exactly, Vincent, what you said. They are setting the stage. They set the stage, they get the or the foundation, and then down from the heavens comes the beautiful.
Beautiful. That was beautiful.
I've been practicing that. But it's true, like everything that goes along with that makes this song that is everything. It is a adult contemporary dream. Vincent, when you were talking about it can be used for other types of people, there's children to mothers, there's students to teachers. And I did find a recent, we're in Lent now for you non-practicing Catholics, and it means that this is the, Jesus crucifixion. There's a video that this song is on, and I'll tell you what, I got emotional. That worked. So I understand that the lyrics, the whole setup just works for that.
You don't know why you like it. You just do.
Wow.
Okay,
You're like,
Whitney Houston.
bring it all together. I love it. And really the modulation, I mentioned this at the beginning, but that is the David Foster formula. There's so many songs that it's an easy key to sing into, and everyone, the words are easy to remember. That modulation goes up, and when that key change happens, you're like, yes, this is it. This is where you can belt it out now. Now, personally, I love a power ballad. God bless Celine Dion. But I will say this, that year, and I'm going to say this for the end of the show, but that year, there was another song that came out by Celine Dion that I felt should have been instead of this one. So I'm going to say that for a second, but I feel like it's a great song. Does it need to be here? No, there's something else that needs to be here.
I love a little tease and a little cue up for later. Very exciting.
Speaking of a little tease.
There's not much more to say. It's funny to think that with Celine, there's not much more to say because there's always more to say, right? But I agree with everything that the three of you have brought up. The one thing I will add, and you all have alluded to it or talked a bit about it, but I think this is Celine's best vocal effort. And I'll say why. Like, this is, to Vincent, your point, we're a year away from Titanic and from sort of the belt. I mean, she's got such a belt anyway, but like her song, there's sort of like before Titanic and after Titanic in her songs, in my perspective. And she has a little more shading and softness in the pre-Titanic songs. And then in the post, they go so big, so fast. And I really appreciate that when she gets to the bridge here, and Carolyn, you sort of talked about how Vincent paused it right before we got to that moment. She goes big, but she keeps vocally soft, and she holds back from going to that big to the rafters note, but sort of, it's still so big, but it's in a different, not belty or not, all the throaty way singing. I don't know all the right words, but it's softer and it's kind of lovely. And we don't get a lot of that post-Titanic from Celine. So I appreciate that this song and the way she sings it, she brings so much or many more layers to the vocal shading than perhaps she started doing as a result of all of the, probably people just applauding what she could do in that Titanic song where it was just through the roof kind of stuff. So the only other thing I'll say, which has nothing to do with the song, but as I was listening to this, I know Vincent loves when this happens. I would listen to these songs, and then Spotify plays you like songs. So there's another Celine Dion song that I think broke the record of how many weeks at #1 on the adult contemporary chart, called "A New Day Has Come." That was like #1 for like 50,000 weeks.
Yeah.
So there's a lyric, we talked about this in a previous episode, weird lyrics. So there's a lyric in that song that says, in a very like surprised way, "I was touched by an angel with love." How else would you be touched by an angel? Why would that be a surprise thing? Like, what? Like, it's the weirdest. Well, there you go, Susan. But like, is there any other possible way that you could be touched by love from an angel?
Angel
It
of
would
Death.
have to be love. It would have
I've
to
met
be
a
love.
lot of angels in my life, and
Oh, there you go.
Were you on your 12-bar Blue tour when you met them? I was gonna say, yeah, I just think there are a lot of, like, I think that there are some songwriters who have a story to tell, and there are some who just string together non sequiturs, like Diane Warren. I don't think Diane Warren wrote A New Day, but like that is a line. That is the epitome of like hack lyric writing to me.
I was touched by an angel with love.
Vomitory.
Ugh, indeed. Anyway, okay, so you know what, that song just is a bit ironic to me, don't you think? So let's hear another take on ironicism, maybe. Vincent Stevens, hey, will you get us some Alanis queued up and swallow it down that jagged little pill?
Don't you think? It's like rain on your wedding day. It's a free ride when you've already paid. It's the good advice that you just didn't take. And who would have thought it figures? Used to play it safe. Was afraid to fly.
Susan, what are you afraid of?
everything.
Everything.
Hot damn. Like, thank you, Alanis Morissette. Thank you for singing out. Thank you for showing America and Canada what women could say when we were often told we couldn't. I think that this song is so smart. I think that her entire album added something new to the musical repertoire, something very different, something that was really needed. I think, especially enjoying this song in 1996, but thinking it was kind of like funny, really enjoying it now in 2021 and hearing it again, and just really, I love kind of like the rock come in. I love the lyrics. I love the whole play with the, isn't it ironic? I love the things that she's laid out. I know some people say that they're not all irony. I don't really care what those people say, because I think this song is fantastic. I think it stands the test of time. Yeah, boom shakalaka.
Done. I have many memories, Vincent Stevens, of going on forensics trips with you and you making fun of this song. So I'm eager to hear where you will take us in your dissertation on this song.
Yeah. So the first thing I wrote is, like, I think that when what's the big song? You Ought to Know. When that came out, people were like, oh, she's this angry woman. She's one of these angry women. I'm like, A, what's wrong with that? And B, but when you listen to this song, and actually, if you think about most of the singles that were released, it's like, who's angry? To me, this song is very lighthearted. It's catchy. I think it's actually very silly. I think that Alanis Morissette has a very stylized quirkiness, but I think actually she's just very slick. So, you know, before this album came out, she was a teen pop sensation in Canada, I guess. And, you know, I think what's telling about her music is that I think almost all of her songs, if not all of them on this album, were co-written and co-produced by Glenn Ballard. Glenn Ballard is, has been a producer for a long time in LA. He actually was the co-writer and producer of the songs on Wilson Phillips' first albums, which tells you actually a lot. So I think it's interesting that, you know, I think people think of Alanis Morissette as a rocker. I actually think of her much more as a pop person who has rock elements. So like this song is not a rock song, even though the guitars rev up and she sort of belts a bit, it's not really a rock, it's a pop song. I don't think it's that deep or that insightful. I think it's kind of unctuous, actually. It's very stylized. It's very like, it hits all these marks. And what I'll say is, I think that there are, and I'm not a fan of like, oh, we always have to compare people based on sex and gender, because I think that gets very problematic in many ways. But I will say, like, and Eric knows this, there's a singer-songwriter from Boston named Jen Trinan, who put out an album independently right before this album came out. And that album, it's just called Jen Trinan. It's incredible. And I think it actually is much more subversive and challenging. And it wasn't co-produced by this like slick LA songwriter. And you got Bikini Kill, L7, you have a lot of other women who are less marketable and less palatable. So even though You Ought to Know sort of set up this like, oh, she's this angry subversive woman, most of our other songs, like, you know, You Live, You Learn, Hand in My Pocket, they're not really pushing anything. They're very traditional kind of pop songs. So I don't know. I think that this nominee is less about it being a great song and more about the fact that it was popular. Again, it played very easily on VH1. It only peaked at number 28 on the adult contemporary charts. I think Alanis Morissette was perceived as a little bit askew of that demographic, but I think it's more about the album won album of the year before, so it had that momentum, so it carried over. But I don't think it's a remarkable song. And of all these songs, it actually felt the most 1996. Like it felt the most like, oh yeah, that song that was popular then. And I guess what I would say is my final thing about Alanis Morissette is that album made her a phenomenon, and she definitely had like Uninvited, and she has some other hits after that. I don't think Alanis Morissette has had any major influence on the music that's made today. And I know that there's a Broadway musical based on her album Jagged Little Pill, but I don't believe that there is this sort of new generation that's like discovering her, that's like, I want to sound like her. I think that actually is much more true of a Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey. I don't think Alanis Morissette I don't think that her influence has actually really gone far beyond that album, but maybe others feel differently. So that's my take on her.
Shazam.
No, the one thing I also say, I'm not, even though I don't love her music, the funny thing is whenever I've seen her interviewed, I actually find listening to her, I think she's very thoughtful and very interesting as a person. Actually, I think she's a very thoughtful, interesting. I don't find her music that thoughtful or interesting. So anyway.
Well, speaking of someone who is thoughtful and interesting, let's kick it to Carolyn to get her hot take on Ironic.
Listen, Vincent Stevens, doctor. You might be a doctor, but I'll tell you what you're not a doctor of. Being in college as a female and hearing a voice come in to say, here are the words that are in your head that you don't know how to say. Alanis Morissette gave us that. She told us, this is what you're feeling. I swear to you, this woman, when I heard Jagged Little Pill, I was in college. And you know, I grew up in boy band land. Cheers to you, Susan. Thank you for the New Kids Cup. And, you know, loved my R&B, 90s, 80s, all that. But it's college. I experimented a bit, as you do. Female singer-songwriters.
With what?
Female singer-songwriters. That's
I
what
thought you were saying something
Carolyn
else.
is my soulmate. Carolyn, you're my soulmate.
See?
This show brings people together and then breaks them apart.
Exactly.
So,
Susan, were you also experimenting? Because again, that may be another podcast.
I feel like, honestly, like Carolyn just described me. I also just want America to know, I just downloaded I purchased on iTunes because I didn't have it on my phone, who we are not endorsed by, Jagged Little Pill.
Yes.
Done. I need that on my phone.
you didn't put on your Napster account or
Share it with me so I don't have to pay for it.
I was on my MySpace and then I downloaded it. Sorry, Dr. Snell, please continue.
Thank you very much. Listen, here's the thing. Alanis gave us those songs, and I don't understand, Vincent Stevens, how you can say it does not stand the test of time. Literally, I listen to it now and I go, it's still today, it's still true. And in fact, in 2015, she went on James Corden and they did Ironic together with the pigtails and the little red skull cap that they did in the song, or in the video rather. And it was great because that you hear that song now, and James Corden is singing it in 2015. This song came out years ago. It's still there. And what's so great is that I do know there's been a lot of controversy about using the word ironic. And in fact, I found one really funny piece that said, you know, somebody says, if it rains on your wedding day, it's not ironic, it's a coincidence. If you win the lottery and then die before you cash the winning lottery ticket in, it's good luck than bad luck. If you meet the man of your dreams and then meet his beautiful husband, as it were now in 2021, obviously, that's just a bummer. That's not ironic. However, the fact is she wasn't mad about that. Like, she wrote it not thinking, oh, I have to be so super specific on this irony here. And right now, actually in 2020, I should say, it was the 25th anniversary of Jagged Little Pill. And there was a world tour planned, a 2-year world tour plan, which was postponed due to the pandemic. Now, if that song came out now, that would include that line. But the real irony would be if the vaccine for COVID was in the form of a Jagged Little Pill. That would be real irony. I'm just saying there. So personally, I'm just saying.
Carolyn, are we meeting up after the pandemic and going to one of the shows on this tour?
Yes, well, and spoiler alert, my last tour was Alanis Morissette. I was out on this tour. We did 3 weeks in Europe, and then boom. Yeah. So
Wow.
even more special place in my heart for her, but she was my past, she is my present. It is the song that I think will never be old.
We'll see.
We'll see, indeed. I really like this song too. I mean, I'm gonna echo a bit of what Susan and Carolyn said here. Yeah, I think it's a fun song. I like the imagery that the lyrics bring about, even though maybe they're not all examples of irony, but I don't care. Like Susan, I don't care either. Like, it's just a fun, super fun song to listen to. I hadn't heard this in a long time, and I instantly thought of that video, Carolyn, that you mentioned of what are there, 4 or 5 Alanises in that old car and driving around. And I love that, it captures this moment in time and in such an amazing way, because this was the soundtrack of sort of a 24-month, maybe 36-month period for the public, in every store you went into and every radio station was playing these songs. The one downside I have, which is really less about this song, is what happened to us musically. Like, the Spice Girls come along the next year. I don't know if they have anything to do with this, but like that wonderful moment of female singer-songwriters who were given lots of attention on radio. I know there's still lots of female singer-songwriters, but like, why did we stop giving them the biggest platform they should possibly have and continue to sustain their success in the public eye? Like, all of that sort of like stops in like 97, 98. It all goes away. And I just find that so sad that we don't, and that's never percolated up again, even in the way that, country music radio plays almost no women for whatever strange reason. Well, we know all the reasons, right? Yeah, indeed. But like, the fact that we keep moving and progressing in some ways, but keep retrenching back in others, is a really disappointing commentary on our world and, what we choose to make and celebrate in ways that, don't often represent the worlds that we live in. So I'm using this moment to talk about ironic to actually just make a plea to say, like, hey, radio, hey, public, music, play more of women, play more singer-songwriters, play more of that, because we need the diversity, we need the different voices, and this is a huge part of our population that should be heard. So why we don't is, again, like you said, we all know, but even the fact that we know doesn't make it right. So let's get more. Let's just start playing Alanis on the radio again. Who knows?
I would also say, to your point, I mean, like, so the following year, right? Remember at the Grammys, Paula Cole, Sean Colvin, Sarah McLachlan. So the following year at the Grammys, there are a lot of female singer-songwriters that are nominated and win some of the bigger awards. But again, it's like someone like Paula Cole, just as one example, like her second album is the album that had Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? And, she studied at Berkeley, and, she really struggled for a while in terms of just like kind of getting her career back on track. But like maybe 2 years ago, she put out an album where she did a bunch of ballads. It's like kind of a jazz album. It's great. And you're like, her talent, she sounds better now than she did then, but it's kind of this weird, it's almost like, oh yeah, this is a trend and it's cute, but now let's move on to something else. And I think that's very sad. And I think that there are certain kinds of artists that are often kind of the victim of that marginalization, So
totally.
I don't know.
And I didn't mean to, like, I love the Spice Girls. So what I made that point wasn't really like, hey, like, I want to hear Wannabe every day of the week. But it ushered in this time of it was like teen pop came and it just erased all of this variety in these voices that I don't think we get to hear anymore. So not blaming the Spice Girls. I just want to make that point. But I do want to hear singer-songwriters in. So we're going to go in a completely different direction for this last nominee of the 5. So the Smashing Pumpkins, 1979. Let's get our roller skates on, Vincent, and shoot the moon.
All right. Yeah, I think we're
Susan, where were you in 1979? You weren't born yet, right?
No,
No,
I'm
totally.
born. Don't be ridiculous. So if you if you had said to me, Susan, what's the title of this song? I could not have told you. And if you had said to me, Susan, do you like 1979 by the Smashing Pumpkins? I would be like, I don't know that song. But then I listened to it and I was like, oh, I do know this song, but I had no idea that that was the name of the song. So I love that bass line. I love that rhythm guitar. I don't even know if I'm naming the right guitars, but you get what I'm saying. I feel like this is a good concert song. I imagine like a bunch of middle-aged white women that look nothing like Carolyn and me at the front of the stage with their like cocktail in a plastic glass. And this is like where they rush the stage because they finally get to sing along to a song. And they're all kind of like bopping their heads. This is like a good montage song. I don't know what these sweet kids are saying. I feel like I'm completely out of the loop on this song. Maybe it's because I wasn't born in 1979 and you have to have been born in
You definitely were
1979.
not born in 1979.
Don't play with my words. Yeah, maybe like you have to have been born that year to understand what they're talking about. Because maybe it's like, you know, when they play that certain pitch around the malls to keep the teens from gathering. Do you know that sound that only young people can hear?
Is it in the Sbarro and
Yeah.
in the Claire's Casuals?
So
boutique?
science has figured out that there's like a sound range that only teens can hear. And it's the sound of Vincent's giggle. And they play it at certain locations because it's annoying to keep the teens from gathering, but we can't hear it. So maybe this song and its lyrics are played completely at that frequency. And that's why I can't understand or hear it. Also, I know the name Smashing Pumpkins. I probably know more of their songs, but I cannot really tell. I confuse them with Green Day, even though I think in my heart I like Green Day a lot more. Done.
And scene.
Okay. Yeah.
Vincent, in your heart, what is it saying about this song?
Susan, oh bless you. We're gonna have a debrief after this. Okay, so you know, when alternative or modern rock music was on the rise in the early '90s, you know, I was a teenager. I was born before 1979, and I'm thinking some other people on this podcast were too. And so anyway, the music I was listening to was actually very mainstream pop. Like while other people were, I don't know, listening to Eddie Vedder, I was listening to Mariah hitting those notes. Like I remember sitting in my world history class with Mrs. Liberty, that was her name, and hitting that like note in emotions. I probably wasn't actually hitting the note, but I was trying. So
She hit the note during her lecture?
I hit the note.
Oh.
She was lecturing, and I was in the back of the classroom, not thinking about Charlemagne, but thinking about Mariah. So I mentioned that because
Smart choice.
I'm a traitor to my generation, which is actually that's in the preface of my book from 2019. Like I talk about being a traitor to my generation. That you know, people of my age, my generation, we supposedly were listening to Tupac and Kurt Cobain, but I was not. The reason I'm mentioning this is because 1979, sort of like Losing My Religion, is one of these songs from a modern rock group that kind of actually opened the door for that genre music to me. I think that people often think about alternative music as though it's a monolith, and they also think about it as being the certain way. But I actually think that there are a lot of folks in that associated with that genre who write really melodic songs. And I think like Smashing Pumpkins is one of them. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm a hardcore Smashing Pumpkins fan, but I remember, I think in high school, that song Today was a hit. Like, today is the greatest. And I remember I didn't know anything about them, but I loved that song. And I love this song. I think it's got this kind of menacing beat at the very beginning. And I think that it reminds me, there's a quality in Brazilian music called saudade. It's like a genre. And it's almost like this nostalgic wistfulness. And that's what this song does for me. This song is like all the feels. When I think about sort of just my emotional state being a young adult at that time, this song does that for me. Like I hear it and it like flows through my soul. It's not like a song that I don't really talk about this song to other people. Susan's looking perplexed, but I love this song.
I
It's a
think you
song
were born in 1979 per Susan's thesis.
well,
So
I was born before then, but I actually own that. I'm actually proud to be my age. But anyway, the point is,
Says
this-
the man in the
this is-
group who won't be judged for being older.
this is a song about time. This is a song about your relationship to immortality when you're young. Like there's a whole line in there about you're not thinking about the time, you're not keeping the time because you just think you're going to be young for forever. And it's got these flows and these ebbs. I mean, it's melancholic and it's celebratory at the same time. I think it's what's interesting to me about the song is that like Billy Corgan is not some sort of great singer, but that's not actually what I'm responding to. I'm actually responding to the music. I think it's got this amazing pulse. It's got it's got all this harmonic stuff going on back and forth. I hear it and I'm like completely on the journey it's taking me on. And then I'm over it. And I almost feel like, I don't know, I wouldn't call it sad, but I feel almost like, ooh, like I want to be back in that moment again. So this song, I'm really glad this song is in this group of nominees. It's not an adult contemporary song at all, but I think it's, in some ways, I think it's kind of one of the last hurrahs of sort of modern rock in terms of being a really melodic, complex, interesting song that actually was a hit. And that I think it actually does stand the test of time. I don't think it's like cheesy 90s stuff. I think it's like, wow, that captures a very particular moment. And I'm totally here and present in that moment. So that's my take on 1979.
well, speaking of timeless, Carolyn, can we get were you born in 1979?
Absolutely.
I can't ask that question in an interview, but I can ask it on a podcast. So
It's a video podcast. I don't know why you guys call it a podcast. It's
I
a
don't either.
because we don't know any of the
We don't know
terms.
either. We're not sure. Are we a vlog?
Are we
You're
a vlog?
vlog. Is that still a thing, a vlog?
I don't know.
We'll bring it back.
I will say that with Vincent's description of that song, I think you were on acid. You were doing a trip or something because you're like, I got there, it was in my body, I got out. I was like, whoa, I need to re-listen to this song with you.
You weren't the
The
only
black
one,
light.
you weren't the only one experimenting.
There it is. And I think that Susan and I are, again, kindred spirits because I too looked at the song by name and thought, I don't know this song. I don't know any song by the Smashing Pumpkins. I listened to it, that bass line came in. I'm like, oh, that song, I know it. Had to look at the lyrics, didn't know what they said, but I love the fact that they only said 1979 in the first line. And then it's more of reflecting on the time period and the, one of them, Billy Corgan said it's the coming of age song. So this is him transitioning from a young boy into a man. A little background on the song itself. He had turned in 56 songs for the album that it came on, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. And 1979 was the last one that he turned in. It was actually just a couple of chord changes and a snippet of melody without words. And one of the co-producers, whose name is Flood, a British producer that did things like U2 and Depeche Mode, Nine Inch Nails, he heard it and said, not good enough. So Corgan took that as a challenge, went home, wrote it in 4 minutes, turned it in the next day and was like, here you go, tiny mic drop. It got on there. And of course, here we are nominated for Record of the Year. One thing it makes me think about is 1979 is similar to me. I feel like this might be the comparison to 1983 by John Mayer. When I hear that song, everything, Vincent, you just said, I get there. I get back into my life in 1983. So maybe that's a very similar, I can compare it to that. But hearing it 1979 now, I can't get behind it. I recognize it now. After now that we're done, I probably won't listen to it again for another 20 years. But there was a review of the song by NME, the British Rolling Stone. They said the lyrics are non-specific. They invite you to project your own meaning onto them. Here's the thing. I'm not a songwriter. I need you to tell me how I feel, going back to Linus. Like, that is what I'm looking for. I know how I feel in my body, but I don't know how to say it. Give me some words to put a nice little bow around it. Smashing Pumpkins, come on, get it together. So I'm saying I have an appreciation for it now. Now as a lover of all music, I appreciate the song more, but lyrically, this just doesn't work.
Despite all your rage, you're still just a rat in a cage. To quote one of their other songs, "The killer in me is the killer in you." That's them.
Wow.
That's them. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny. Like, Susan and Carolyn, I couldn't, listening to the song again, I was like, what are they saying? What is it? Like, I couldn't, the song has like no hook. and I couldn't find my way lyrically into it. And I've spoken before on the podcast how much I love lyrics, and lyrics are often my way into the song. And then I read the lyrics and I was like, oh, these are really great. I really liked the imagery and what it was saying. So it made me think like how much I would like to hear a version of this song where I could actually like strip down and I could actually hear someone performing or interpreting the lyrics in a way that I could actually hear and understand them as a listener. Like, because I think I might like this song more, because as I listened to this over those past week or two, I've started to call this song Bread, Milk, and Eggs, because every time I start listening to it, about halfway through, I stop listening to it and I start putting together my shopping list because it doesn't make any impression on me at all. Like it's so, like there's no variation in the music really. I can't hear any of the lyrics. The one thing I do spend time doing is like he makes that little gurgle noise that he's saying like a word, and I don't know, and I want to know what that word is. That little what are you saying, Bill Corrigan? Like what is that little gurgle noise? And it's not in the lyrics. Oh, Vincent, maybe.
Vincent probably knows because he was taking acid and then could hear them all clearly.
I guess the one thing I was going to say is just, and it's just an aesthetic thing, is I think that some songs actually want you to actually listen in. Some songs actually want you to not just hear but listen. So I'm just saying, like, I think like the Celine Dion song, it's very straightforward. It's very like, because I think, and I think that for me, this might be one of the dividing lines between a lot of music that's alternative, let's say, and a lot of mainstream pop music. Like, and I'm thinking of REM specifically. There are some songs that I think actually want you to listen in. So I'm just saying, like, I feel like there are some songs that are needing different things from us. So yeah, I don't think this is trying, like, I think Billy Corgan could have asked Flood to turn it up. He could have sang louder, but I actually think that's actually part of what it wants you to do. Like, I think there is something a little entrancing or almost hypnotic about the repetition. So I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's a coincidence that it's like, wait, what is he saying? Because I do feel like the lyric is it's sort of like Orange Crush, that REM song. Like, you really have to listen to what they're trying to say to get that it's about Agent Orange. I'm just saying, like, I think some songs want us to actually do that. Like, wait, what? That's all.
Totally. When
like
I was
low
like
talkers, you know, people that are low talkers because they try to like draw. It's like, speak up, for God's sake, speak up. Yes,
when
exactly.
I like, indeed. Well, I think this song gives an atmosphere. Like it's trying to, like it's doing that, and I think it achieves that. But as like a song I want to keep listening to or going back to, or something that, you know, I'd put on a playlist for whatever reason, I don't know if I would ever pull this song into one of those, because I get your point, Vincent. And I like that it tries to make you work in certain ways or get you out of a listening comfort zone that you have. So I do appreciate that, but I just can't find my way in, even reading the lyrics. And even if they turned up a little, or if he enunciated a little more, or maybe he just means like my voice is an instrument in this, not a conveyor of a narrative, and that's okay too. But I just, the so little variety within the song kind of lost me along the way. Though I love the other song. Oh, Caroline, I'll get to in just a second. I'm sorry. You know, despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. The Bullet with Butterfly Wings song that was the lead single from this album. I think like there's something about that song, the energy of it. It just drives. It just pulls me in. So he can do it. He can sing a song that you can understand the lyrics. But sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
Yeah.
I was interrupting you, and I just didn't want to interrupt your transition, because that's the best part of this whole podcast. Let's be honest, is your transitions. So, but I did want to add this: is I went on to a place that doesn't support you. You're not supported by it, so I'm not going to say the name, but a streaming service, and looked for covers of the song, because I also was interested, like, what would it sound like if somebody else sang it? And there was a few people that covered it that I can't remember right now, actually, but there was one, like a folk duo that did it kind of maybe with a little mandolin. Like, it was really like, it was a female voice. It was a really sweet, different version of this song that I was like, okay, I can actually get into this a little more now. There's also surprisingly some dance remixes of the song. So imagine that same, I mean, his voice and everything, just a little, woo, that did not work at all, but it was fun to listen to.
And this is the era, right? Well, thank you for, I would love to, because I thought, you know what, as I read the lyrics, like this would be great in like someone's cabaret set, or like, you know, because the lyrics are really interesting and I found them appealing. I just wanted to hear them. So that's so I so appreciate that. I'm gonna check that out because it sounds cool. But this is also the era, I'm just thinking Unbreak My Heart, like where songs like were released in like 4 different versions. Like there was the ballad version, then there was the boom, 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 boom version of it. And like, so why not? Why not have a dance remix of it? I hope it works better. Though I love the dance remix of Unbreak My Heart. We'll just
So good.
Indeed.
And remember, nobody's supposed to be here.
Oh my God. So
No,
good.
no, 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 no. I'm like, yes, Deborah, I'm here for
Totally.
that.
The ballad rocks, the dance version rocks. So speaking of rocking, now that we have listened to the 5 nominees, we're going to think about who should have joined this mix. So we're going to go around and get some of that sprinkled into this. And then we're going to think about, will there be an envelope to open and who we think should have taken home the Golden Gramophone on this evening of 1996. So Susan, who should have been nominated this year? Who should have joined, the golden list of nominees?
Thank you. You always know this is where I put most of my effort and research. So hold tight. I will say, in asking my smart speaker, who we are not endorsed by, to once again play like the top songs, and Tony Rich came on, and I melted, and I was like, this song where am I? That song stands the test of time. Nobody knows it but me. Did I get that right? I just like, I forgot. That brought. I was like, okay, here we are. I'm here for this. And where is Tony Rich? I don't know.
He's alive. He still records.
Thank God. Thank God. Bless his heart. Also, like, I must say this every year, but like, where is Mariah? Where is Mariah?
So Carolyn and I talked about this. So I'm just gonna say very quickly, the Grammy people are very inconsistent. So her album, One Sweet Day's primary reign for 16 weeks was in 1996. Right. But One Sweet Day was nominated the year before. I was saying to Carolyn,
it came out in November, right?
I think that what happens is that I think they did this weird thing where it's almost like, if the song is a track on the album and you want to submit it, you can. And I was saying to Carolyn, in 1986, at the 1986 Grammys, which actually were broadcast in 1987, the composition Graceland was nominated for Song of the Year at the Grammys. And that's the year that the album won. The following year, the single Graceland won Record of the Year. So how is it that you could nominate the composition in one year, but the actual record is not? It doesn't make any sense. So the Grammy people are very inconsistent. But the year before,
Vincent, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying. So the year before, "Always Be My Baby" was nominated in the R&B category, but it was an album track. It wasn't even a single yet. One Sweet Day was up for Record of the Year, and then Fantasy was up for Best Female Pop Vocal. It doesn't make sense with the Grammys' own rules. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, please, anytime for Mariah, which always then brings out the point of Boys to Men. Shout out to the 215. And also, if I'm mentioning Boys to Men,
but is there a Boys to Men song?
Oh no, if I'm mentioning Boys to Men and Mariah Carey, it always makes me think of the fabulous episode, which I have mentioned before, of the Unbreakable Kimmy Gibbler, where Titus Andronicus says that he has to go sing at a friend's funeral and that he's going to sing One Sweet Day, but by accident leads into, at the funeral, "I'll make love to you." Why hasn't he won an Emmy?
Why? He's so good on that show.
That has nothing to do with this year's
Warwick
Grammys.
episode. The Dionne Warwick episode, just
Yeah. So has nothing to do with the Grammys, but it's always a great lead-in to always mention Mariah, get in Boys to Men, mention that I'm from Philadelphia, and then of course wrap up with a shout out to Titus. So that's what I got for you, America.
That's your own little tasty cake, Susan.
That is my taste. Nobody bakes a cake as tasty as a tasty cake.
Nobody knows it. Nobody knows how to. Okay, Vincent Stevens, you always have a laundry list of who should have beens. Who's your you should have beens?
All right. So I agree with Susan that nobody knows of the Tony Rich project. So this is what I would say. This was a much better year for music than I realized. I would say you could replace all 5 songs with another group of really stellar 5 songs. So Blue by Leanne Rimes, nominated for Best Song, and she won for Best Country, Best Duo Artist, and Best Female Vocal. But I think that record is stunning. It literally explodes off the page. It's old-fashioned and also contemporary at the same time. I'm here for it. I think that there are two songs from the Waiting to Excel soundtrack that sent out: Exhale, Shoop Shoop, and Not Gonna Cry by Mary J. So you got Whitney and Mary J could have easily been there. You're Making Me High by Toni Braxton. It's a song about female masturbation. Take that, Alanis. I think she's going there. She's like, look, I get off. Okay, I think of you.
He had one hand in my pocket. It's the same thing. Go ahead.
Very good. But You're Making Me High, I think, like Toni Braxton was known as this sort of torch singer, these very serious, painful, abject songs. But You're Making Me High, she's like, hey, I have sex too, I have fun. Two other movie songs, both from the movie Set It Off. Missing You, which has Gladys Knight, Shaka Khan, Brandy, well, whatever, and I forget somebody else. That song is beautiful. It was nominated this year in some category, some lower category. That song gives me all the feels. And also, In Vogue, Don't Let Go, period. There'll be some love making, heart shaking, stone making, whoa.
How do In Vogue not have a Grammy?
Thank you.
Makes no sense.
See your mind?
No.
Never gonna get it?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Grammys.
Even the debut, like, hold on. Like, the vocals on that song alone are astonishing.
This is what I'm gonna say. After you release a record, after, I don't know, 25 years, whatever, there's a Grammy Hall of Fame. So there are several. I think In Vogue is gonna have some songs in the Grammy Hall of Fame at some point. Just
What
put
a
it
man.
out there in a RAS. Damn it. Anyway, that's my list.
Okay, Carolyn, this list is growing and is robust. So
Man, I just adjusted my notes based on those two people talking right before me. Okay, so going back to my Celine Dion instead of. So I feel like even though we love Because You Love Me in the most AC kind of way, It's All Coming Back to Me Now was released 5 months after Because You Love Me. And this song is the song where Eric and I know that I totally appreciate the fact that she kind of kept it down. This is the first time that she kicked that door open, or in the case of the song, she slammed the door with the door effect. That's what I was hoping you were going to play too. Okay, here we are. And Andrew Lloyd Webber called it the record of the millennium. I mean, come on. This is a rock opera. This is something that she is like, I'm here now. Get ready, Titanic. she's the iceberg, all right? So
if you touch me like this and I hold you like that, like,
I mean,
how more descriptive can you get?
Exactly. This is, I feel like, could have been a replacement of Thank You, Susan. That's exactly.
And you know the Grammy controversy about that song, right?
No, tell us.
So
Doctor?
you can only submit one Record of the Year nomination, like per album.
Okay.
So what happened is that Jim Steinman was going to submit this for Record of the Year, and the record company,
the songwriter.
No, yeah, who also produced it.
Okay.
So he was because the producer also gets the Record of the Year
Mhm.
award. So he was going to submit it. Celine Dion's record company was like, David Foster's Because You Love Me is actually going to be our representation. So there was a little bit of tension because they both were huge records. But in the end, the sort of easier adult contemporary song got the nod instead of it. And It's All Coming Back to Me Now as a cover. So
Yes.
another artist actually did the song in the 80s or 90s, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think
Pandora's
Box.
So it wouldn't have been eligible for song, but it would have been eligible for record. But they were like, nope, sorry.
Wow.
Also,
per album, one record per album.
I think it is because this year, like Beyonce is nominated for Savage and for the Savage remix and for the other song, the
Black Parade.
Black Parade. But I was going to say something else to know. This is just sort of a sidebar. Philadelphia from 1993, which won Tom Hanks' first Oscar. So you know that originally, Denzel and Tom Hanks were both going to be eligible for Best Actor. And they were like, oh, no, this is about Tom. Sorry, Denzel. Yep.
Rude.
There you go. So these awards contests, they're rigged, baby. Or they're very calculated, period. Okay, sorry to interrupt you, Carol.
No, that's good information. You learned so much on this show, everyone. There'll be a test later.
Look out, Sesame Street.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Gosh.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay, I'm gonna say En Vogue, Don't Let Go. Thank you, Vincent. That wasn't even in my brain. You said that, and I was like, there it is. Absolutely, bring that back. Instead of 1979, going back to that, I'm gonna say either Wonderwall by Oasis, or now this is probably too soon for the winner. I don't think the public is ready for it yet. But Where It's At by Beck, man, that he was like a whole different vibe bringing in. I don't think 96, 97, they weren't ready for it, but I think he won. Yes, he won Best Male Rock Vocal Performance.
Which is funny because it's not a rock song.
It's not at all. But this is a great example of when they kind of put out this new like alternative music. They don't really know. They're not like, sure, where do we categorize these people? For instance, this is a different example, but my friend that I had dinner with last night and talked about this said this. In 1988, the Grammys added the hard rock metal performance category. The nominations were Metallica, AC/DC, Iggy Pop, Jane's Addiction, and Jethro Tull. And Jethro Tull won because they're
So
like,
crazy.
we don't know what metal means, so we're gonna put this. I feel like Beck would have been that similar kind of thing. Like, you're not really rock, but you seem to fit here. Pop it there. There I am. Okay, here's a question for Dr. Stevens. Can a remix get nominated as Record of the Year if the song's already been released, but the remix is released in the year?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Two thoughts. Number one, I know that in the late 90s, they added a remixer of the year category or remix. There's some sort of remix thing
Right.
that exists, but I think it may be just for the producer and the remixer, not for the artist, I think. And number two, I know that the version of Stay With Me that won for Sam Smith, it's like the Dark Child version, which I've never heard. I think Rodney Jerkins must have done something. I don't understand why the original wasn't the winner. So I'm not sure is my answer.
Well, thank you for that educated answer. I'll say if there was, let's just say that was a thing.
I know what you're going to say. I know the song.
Tell me what it is.
Is it Missing?
Yes, it is. Yes, everything
That
but the
song
girl
in the 90s.
missing.
That song in the 90s.
Woo, that is me walking down Mass Ave, going to
Yeah.
that bar down the street. Man, that is all day long.
That's me going to Tower, going to
Yes.
Mystery Comics,
Yes. that is-
Mystery
Oh
Train.
my gosh.
What's the place with the ice cream with the cow? I don't even know.
Oh,
JP Licks.
JP Licks. I'm like, sorry, I've been in Nashville too long. Man, so good. So if a remix was there, if we could submit it, I would say that. The other one, and funny that you said the Spice Girls Wannabe. I feel like, I don't know if it's Record of the Year, but I at least want to give a shout out. It was released July 8th, 1996. So it would make the cut. I think it's great. I just want to do a little shout out. I don't know if it'd be Record of the Year, but you know. And Leanne Rimes, thank you for saying that, Vincent. That was my like, okay, if it wasn't for Leanne, that pop country crossover, Taylor Swift, I promise you, she would not have had an easy way to get into the Grammys. She would have had to work harder. So I think Leanne, that song is great. She's still the youngest Grammy winner ever. Did you know that? 14.
Yep. She's
yes.
amazing.
Last one is One Sweet Day. I know we've already talked about this, but I did go back again, and it's like, I think the rules are all messed up. And Vincent, thank you for trying to help me with that. But this is where I'd like to share a little something. Speaking of Mariah Carey, you know, we all went to Emerson College together, and Dr. Stevens and I were friends during this time. And so I have my one photo album left because of course smartphones weren't even there. And I have a photograph of Mr. Dr. Stevens from 1997 with a Mariah Carey connection. So I'm going to show that here.
Oh,
Look at that. Derek
you love the
Jeter.
photograph. Me and Derek Jeter. Okay, so you know where I took this photo.
Did you go on the roof from that pizza place?
I took this photo at the Virgin Megastore in Los Angeles. I didn't realize you had the photo.
I didn't either.
Shopping. It was my very first time in LA. I was
my
shopping
gosh.
in the Virgin Megastore, and Derek Jeter and this other baseball player came in. And so I'm looking at myself and I was like, hey, aren't you Derek Jeter? You're dating Mariah Carey. I said, come take a picture. And so we took a picture. And then he's like, oh, do you know where the country section is? I'm like, I don't work here. And then I turned around and kept shopping. So I have been wondering for years where that picture is, and I realized I gave it to you.
I will be sharing this with you.
Can you share that
Email.
digitally? That's
Of
a good one.
course.
That's
I
a
couldn't
good
believe it
one.
though. I was like, this is gold.
The real question is though,
It's platinum.
Mr. Vincent Stevens,
Yeah.
is did you get a goodbye basket from Derek Jeter?
Yeah, indeed.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, well,
Are you making a sex comment?
ask around.
Yeah, I don't think I know what that even means.
I know, Susan.
But what I will say is that he and the other baseball player, when you're famous, there's some sort of skin product you use. They both had this glow. I was like, there's something weird about this. But he was very nice, but I was like, I don't work. I'm going back to my shopping. Thanks for the picture though. It was
That's
great.
so LA too. My first time in LA, I saw Derek Jeter.
I also saw Kenny Lattimore in the mall in the Beverly Center, and I saw somebody. I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to get sued. But I saw someone that people have long thought is closeted, and they were in a parking lot in a car with someone else, and then their head was low. They were hiding, and then they raised their head, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Blink Blink!" And I started screaming, "I see you! I know it's you!" Yeah, but I'm not trying to get sued.
That went over well, I bet.
We'll put that in the chat. We'll put that in the comments below later.
Not trying to
Subscribe.
out anybody, but
Dr. Stevens outing people since
Left and right.
1997.
Vincent Stevens in LA is dangerous. Period.
Wow.
All right, folks.
Okay, we got to. So you all have mentioned so many great ones. I'm just going to add a couple to the mix because I love all of those songs. So to Vincent, your point, there are 5 additional ones. We could have completely replaced these 5 with somebody else. Sean Colvin, who wins the next year for Sunny Came Home. The first single from that album, Get Out of This House, is a great,
I just heard this song last week and loved it.
It's so good. It's so good. So much energy, great spirit. In a completely different realm, Vincent has put this on many a mixtape for me over the years. I love Brandy sitting up in my room. It's just so sweet. I love her voice. I love the way it skips along. It's great. And then one other, which might be a little out of left field, but did win in one of the other categories. But why didn't It Takes a Village by Hillary Clinton get into this category? It won for
Because
best.
America hates women.
Right. She won a Grammy that year for best like spoken word thing. So if she had gotten the remixers of, Missing onto her team, she could have remixed that song and perhaps won even more awards. So let's just say that. Okay. So who should have won? Who do we think? And then we'll reveal who the actual winner was.
Can we do something a little different and rank? Like, what is our number 5 to number 1? Can we do
dang.
that?
Wow, raising the
Oh.
difficulty. Sure.
Susan, you're up for the
Susan.
task
Now, today, right now?
now. Number 5 to number 1. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
It's like impromptu.
Okay. Number 5, 1979. Number 4, Change the World. Number 3, Because You Loved Me. Number 2, Ironic. And my winner, give me one reason, Tracy Chapman. Boom, done.
Zoom.
Ta!
Wow, Susan, I love it. Vincent Stevens, speed round. 5 up, 5 down.
Change the World. Number 4, Ironic. Number 3, Because You Love Me. Number 2, Give Me One Reason. And number 1, 1979.
Boom. Wow.
Dang.
Okay. Carolyn, what is your top 5?
Susan and I are almost twins again. 1979, number 5. Number 4, Change the World. Number 3, Because You Love Me. Number 2, Give Me One Reason. Number 1, Ironic.
Wow.
Forever.
Shut to the Zam. Okay, my top 5 are 5 is Change the World. 4 is 1979. 3 is Because You Love Me. 2 is Ironic. And 1 is Give Me One Reason. Boom. So I think that's our winner, right? Perhaps Tracy Chapman will win another singular.
So we got 3 splits. Wait.
Yeah,
Nope.
we have 3 winners in our group,
Yeah.
but Susan and I voted for the same one.
But we all had the same number 3,
Which
Because
is
You
because
Love
we
Me?
love
Because You
which
Love
in
Me.
a forensic round would pass it on to finals.
it. Was absolutely.
Oh, but so Carolyn, did you choose Ironic?
Yes.
Yes,
She did.
Okay, so we have Ironic, Give Me One Reason, and 1979.
Correct.
So okay.
But 2 19 or 2
Yeah.
Give Me One Reasons.
Yeah.
To give me one reason. So I think that's our today's winner, right?
Yeah.
Anyone want to argue against that?
So we all had that at least at number 2 or number 1, right?
I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah.
can't
What were
argue
you,
that much.
Vincent? What was your second?
It was
One reason.
one reason.
Okay, me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Tracy Chapman is a 2-time podcast singular winner.
Congratulations, Tracy.
Yeah, I
Yay,
think she's our first
Tracy!
2-time. Hey, Tracy. Okay, so the envelope, please, of who did win that year.
So,
We're
Susan,
going to
it'll be
reveal
to your
that
right.
to
It'll
the.
be to your right. It'll be to your right. Susan,
Anyway.
it'll be to your right. There we go. And Eric, it'll be to your left. There we
There
go.
we go. And I'm going to open the.
You guys, did you change the squares?
You did because you left and then it reordered you.
Could someone have given me the heads up?
Well, we were doing a podcast while you were doing it. Anyway.
And that year's winner is La La Land.
Wait.
Faye Dunaway, it's all your fault. Okay, the real winner, now that I got the new envelope, is Change the World by Eric Clapton. That was the one that took home the Golden Gramophone that year. So
Somebody
I don't know.
put the brakes on.
Put the shiz, yeah.
I
Took the Zam out of
Taking
our
the
shiz.
air. Taking the jam out of the shiz.
The fact that that won both record and song of the year.
Well,
That's-
ladies
Yeah.
Safe
and
choice. And
That's
ladies.
embarrassing.
that's America right there in the Grammys. Well, good listener, that has been yet another episode of Singular, where we, of course, discuss record of the year. With thanks to Eric Nelson, Dr. Vincent Stevens, and a huge shout out to the amazing, lovely, and talented Carolyn Snell, who you can check out on snellycat.com, Instagram, and Facebook at that handle, and follow her on Twitter at Carolyn Snell. Don't forget to click like and subscribe down below. Don't forget to hit that bell to get all of our notifications. Of course, you can follow along on Facebook at Podcast Singular, at Twitter, Podcast Singular. It has been a lovely afternoon with you again. And remember, good listener, it's
It's an honor to be nominated.
Yes.
Very good.
I'd like to
Ciao.
thank my team.